This is great. I'm really excited about this new direction. We guys, we're trying an outline. We're gonna like really, we've outlined, we're gonna stick to it. Brad,
We-
now I can't see you. Can you see yourself?
Oh
You're
no!
you're you're in like total darkness. All right, there you go. There you go.
It's coming back. It's a digital camera. Guys, first off, Twig and I are wearing the same shirt. We did not plan this.
Deep V. Brad is really rocking the deep V.
Beige deep V. I got a real camera instead of my iPhone because I felt like post Coach Walls, we got to step up our production value when we record in our basements. That's the way I felt. You know what I mean? Can't go back to the
Yeah,
iPhone,
fair
you know?
enough. Fair
You
enough.
know?
I think this is
Uh,
great.
and we have an outline. And
We have an
I haven't even
outline.
my iPhone is right here and the outlines to my right, my eyesight. So look at us. We're all grown
We have
up.
an we have an outline. We have 1 hour on the clock. You got to go pick up the kids from school. I have to get to a massage. lots
I
of
love
lots
that
to
those are
get
the
through.
two I love that those are the two things we're going to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a late bloomer. I'm still in my still in
No,
my
I'll just let
thinking of literally no one but myself phase era of life.
I'm just gonna let our listeners decide who's winning here. Someone's going to get a massage. Uh, Someone is gonna be in a minivan, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, bro, you're
dark,
dark again. You're gone.
dark.
Oh
But dark
man.
again
There
is
we
kind
go.
of
Okay.
it's kind of like a meme.
It's, it's
Um,
very moody.
it's very moody. We are at officially 100 days of being in the darkness. This is very appropriate. 100 days
Uh,
of the Trump darkness. How are we feeling? Should we go through all the things, Twig, that this president and his co-president has done to the country? How do we even start the 100-day journey, you know?
yeah. I mean, it's it's been pretty bad. SNL, I think, nailed it when they were like the 100 years of Trump presidency. It's been pretty bad. It's been pretty bad. They just did that 100-day cabinet meeting and what's his face? Doge was like more president's done more than anybody. And like that might be true, but like that more has just been to what effect? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like just chaos, throwing stuff up against the wall, retracting it nearly immediately, terrorizing people, harassing little kids, the country, all over the country, flouting both domestic and international law. Great.
It's great. It's a good look. It's a good look. I sent you a YouTube clip this morning. I'm a huge PBS NewsHour head. Just like what a great program. And they had this historian on who talked about the whole idea of 100 days, first 100 days, FDR created, right? In 1933, in the wake of the Great Depression, the America that we know was in tumult. People were losing their jobs left and right, and our banking institutions were failing, our federal government agencies were failing. And so FDR was like, we are going to do more in these first 100 days than no other administration in history. And it's true, like he did the Emergency Banking Recovery Act, he did all of these incredible programs, created programs that still lasted to today. The incredible thing about that whole first 100 days was this idea of, I know we're all afraid. We should not be afraid. Like, this is the time where we come together as a country and have trust in our institutions and we have trust in public workers and we have trust in the fact that, like, it feels uncertain, but there is certainty on the other side. And as Trump gets dark, like my camera, Donald Trump has done the exact opposite, Carrie Twigg, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's instilled fear in all manner of vulnerable groups. I mean, one of the things that's really interesting about that history lesson is that one of the what President Roosevelt, the latter, was saying was that Congress had to make all these actions, right? Congress had to pass all this legislation, and what we're watching Donald Trump do is completely subvert Congress. This is what is that?
I'm gonna get it right. I promise. I'm gonna figure it out.
That that was completely subverting Congress, and, like, Congress is like, yes.
I promise. We're gonna work it out. We're gonna fix the lighting. Oh wait, it's back. It's back. It's back. It's back. I think I just have to wave at the camera. Podcast is going so good. Oh wait, there we go. There we go. This podcast is going so great. It's going really good, guys. You can't see me. You can't see me, but it's going really good. Okay, go on. Go on. History, history, history. Sorry.
Oh my god.
So funny.
Okay, and so we had this, like, prolific 100-year period of all this legislation that sort of defined the modern era of America, and contrast it with
Oh no, the clip is just gonna be us laughing this week. That's what it's gonna be. 100 days.
oh my god, amazing.
Wicked Jenkins can't keep it together. Go ahead. Sorry. Oh no. Go, go, go.
And now we have this president that's running this administration by, like, executive fiat, right? Speaker Mike
Yeah.
Johnson and leader Thune, as handsome as he is, like, these dudes are just, like, kind of as much as we call the Democrats in Congress feckless, I mean, the Republicans in Congress.
We'll cut all this out. We'll cut all this out.
Oh, yeah, are equally. For any people who are just listening, Brad has this new fancy camera and this light setup, and, and it just the light keeps going out completely. And I don't know why I think it's so funny.
I think it's
But
because I think it's because I was so excited about this new game.
we spent like the first 10
And
minutes
I
on
just keep
camera
going into
talking
darkness.
about like this mirrorless camera. It just keeps going dark, and
Oh
it's just
no.
really
Okay.
funny. Or I'm having a trauma response to any manner of things that are happening,
It's better.
and have fully disassociated from the Trump administration's first 100 days.
So if we go through the 100 days, I feel like we start at the top. And you and I felt like a lot of the stuff at the top was bullshit, right? A lot of the stuff at the top, you know, were things that we knew were going to get beaten back, right? Like ending birthright citizenship, all of these dog whistles, all of this like fear and division. Um, but I think that the what the historian was really getting at, which was that this fear mongering, like the opposite of what FDR was doing, has so penetrated every part of
Yeah.
American life, right? It doesn't matter what industry you work in, whether you are a lawyer, private law firms are being attacked, whether you are a journalist, whether you're a public service worker, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're a doctor, medical researcher, a student, right? Like it just goes across the board, which is to say, we now have a president that if you step out of line, if you are not beholden or expressly loyal, including Republicans on the Hill, by the way, I am coming for you. That was great timing. That was such great timing. It was really, really good timing.
I know. I will say though that I'm more optimistic at the 100-day mark than I was at the 50-day mark, right? Like 100 days in, and don't get me wrong, like the real life cost and the real life consequences of government programs that are getting cut, of these tariffs on and the impacts on small businesses, on these deportations
Yeah,
and the effects on communities, on the rescinding of legal protected status, for migrants. Like there's so many things, the cuts to food banks, the cuts to teenage mental health programs. Like there's so many things that we have yet to bear out the full consequence of, and that are like putting people in harrowing situations right now. And so it's not lost on me in any stretch of the imagination. And yet, at the same time, I think we are starting to see a wave of backlash to Trump crest.
yeah,
And people are like figuring out the arithmetic of Trump, right? Like Trump, there's so many things to say about like the American spirit and the nature of Americans and our rugged individualism and all the ways that is detrimental to civilization. And yet, there's also all these upsides, right? And part of them is like innovation and exploration and optimism, but also like Americans really don't like to get pushed around. And so you're starting to see them figure out like, okay, so how do we actually interact with this guy? And the answer is you squat up and you punch him back in the face, right? And it's just like watching Harvard sort of understand, oh, if we get all these other people to come with us and we turn like the
yeah,
group against Donald Trump, then it works much more effectively than like us trying to negotiate or even us trying to appease him, right? All these people who rolled over, showed their bellies, and tried to and like let Donald teabag them, just they're not getting what they want. Amazon still getting like ridiculed, is going to get punished
true.
for these tariffs. Meta isn't getting the judgments that it wants out of the SEC. It's like there's all these ways that the people who've actually capitulated to him don't get what they want, and the people who stand up to them, whether they're China and Xi Jinping, or they are the president of Harvard or others. And don't get me wrong, you have to have a position of power, strength, and privilege in order to stand up in this way. That's not lost on me. But you're starting to see people figure out the sort of relatively simple math of what it takes to stand up to this guy.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I do wonder though how quickly or, you know, I feel like the budget is a great thing. I don't think we should get into the budget because it's super boring, but what we've not found are any Republicans who have the balls to go against this guy, right? And so that's that's the piece that, as these midterms start approaching, which are right around the corner, by the way, um, what that sort of looks like. Um,
No Republican leaders yet. I mean, you're starting
yeah,
though in the rank and file. I mean, you're the polls guy. There's been a lot of
yeah,
talk of polls the last couple of weeks, but it sounds like a lot of sort of Republican voters are starting to be like, wait, what? Like I
yeah,
was willing to take a risk, but I'm a little like, you got to walk me through what we're doing here. This doesn't seem exactly right. That's actually not what I wanted. So while, you know, the Republicans that are in the newspaper might be still fully drinking Kool-Aid, we'll see if that translates in states that have elections this year, like Virginia,
true.
and
New
others,
Jersey as
whether or
well.
not. New Jersey, whether or not these like Trump voters, whether they're new converts or just Republican stalwarts, are holding the line. So these numbers aren't great, right?
His numbers are awful. I mean, that's the other part that no one really is paying attention to. I think CNN had a poll out last week. Trump, look, America is very forgiving. We really, as a country, like we give a lot of grace and leniency to the president's first 100 days, which is to say, like, they are elected, go get him, Tiger. Like, we're not going to hold judgment. We're going to root for you. Donald Trump's approval rating in these first 100 days is the worst in 7 decades. I mean, it's really, really, really bad. It's not great. So, that's going to have fucking trickle down effects, right? Like, there's no way to separate the fact that this guy is so wildly unpopular across the country unless you are a diehard MAGA person, right? And I think that the diehard MAGA person continues to be alienated day in and day out because there are no real returns. Like there are no real tangible effects of Donald Trump being elected other than rhetoric and other than fear mongering. And
Yeah.
to your point,
Yeah.
Americans just don't have time for that shit. Americans need real shit, right? Like we are in a state, we're in late stage capitalism. Like Americans need prices to go down.
Yeah.
They need that shit. They don't need
Totally.
their whatever savings they have to evaporate overnight because you hired a high schooler to figure out your tariff chart, and then you lose trillions of dollars
It's not
in the
funny.
American economy because you don't know how to math, right? Like all of these things are self-inflicted wounds. So the other thing about this whole first 100 days, they wrote a really great game plan. They had these architects, Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, Vought, and all these guys are going to come in, and they wrote this really great game plan. The problem was, not to keep making sports analogies, but you could have a really great playbook, and then you could put people on the field that are just bullshit, that don't know what they're doing at all. And that's effectively what we have right now, right? Like they're like, in theory, it's a great idea to do X, Y, or Z. But when you get down to brass tacks and what this will mean to, we're seeing it, we're seeing it with the polls. We're also seeing it with, personally speaking, I've had Twig. I'm not exaggerating. 7 to 8 hometown New Jersey friends reach out to me. I think it's because I talk about New Jersey in every
All
video
the
and in
time.
every pocket. I think that I'm really just trying to speaking of DMs being open, I'm really just trying to bring my New Jersey brethren to me. But these are all people that were like, I'm so embarrassed I voted for Donald Trump.
Oh,
So embarrassed I voted for Donald
interesting.
Trump. So I think it's bad. I think that Democrats, we can get into how they're doing in these 100 days, but I think that while it felt in that moment, in those first maybe 30 days, that the world was ending, the world's not ending.
I also think one of the things that's really interesting, and I'll be interested to see if you agree with this, is one of the things that I think people really underestimate is like how difficult it is to work at the White House. It is so rigorous. It is so hard. You are under so much pressure. It requires such like dedication and focus and endurance. There are so many competing factors for your attention, for your consideration. There's so much legal precedent, there's political precedent. There's so many decision making is so complex in that building and requires such a degree of precision and endurance and sort of rigor that I think they've also sort of like run out of steam as a staff. The first
Yes.
30 days, they just seemed much more bullish, much more strategic, even when they were doing things like filing, like the birthright citizenship example, right?
Yeah.
We knew that they knew that was initially going to get turned down, but it seemed like they were coming out and like trying to test different things. They were doing trial balloons, and it felt early on as though there was a level of precision, coordination, strategy, and intelligence that really stressed me out and scared me. And I was like, oh my God, they figured out the building.
Yeah.
Because Trump won, you were like, y'all don't have any idea what is going on. Like, doesn't mean you can't wreak havoc, doesn't mean you can't do an incredible amount of damage, but you guys do not know how this building works. You do not know how to actually pull these levers, how to interact with the agencies. Like, you're going to get outwitted by the career staff, the people who really want to protect things, who want to maintain certain institutions, certain data points, blah, blah, blah. But then the beginning of Trump 2.0, it was like, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no, they have figured it out and they are going, it's over, game over, right? And the resistance didn't like spring up in a way that felt obvious and tangible. And so but they seem to have either seems to have been like a false sense of enthusiasm, or they've run out of steam, or they've run out of competence, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they haven't actually they've not met the level of the fear that they incited in me in the first 30 days has not borne fruit, right? They
Agreed.
just can't land the plane. They just can't sort of thread the needle, or whatever the analogy is or the metaphor is. And I think that is, it's not as blatantly incompetent as it was in the first term, but it does speak to a real lack of sort of deftness or skill or precision, or just like wherewithal to actually sit and understand how much it takes to change policy. So I think that's been really interesting. And that's given us this window. It's given the American people a window into like, oh, these guys don't have some like grand master plan, right? This whole sort of divinity track of like, oh, Trump
Yeah.
must know what's going on. He must have some higher vision. Like that, I think, is starting to fall apart. And the sort of supreme arrogance of the Stephen Millers and the sort of bureaucrats who came in, and Doge even, and just being like, we know what we're doing, blah 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 blah. Like none of that's panned out. None of that kind of bravado has actually panned out in a meaningful way, other than to cause chaos and just piss everybody off. So time will tell. They still have all the levers of power and can still, do a lot of damage. But I at least feel better than I did 50 days ago about how they're going to be able to like execute on the remainder of their kind of Project 2025 uh agenda.
Yes. I think that when you have someone like Stephen Miller, right, at the helm, I think the focus on race and deportations without due process, um, just, I mean, there's no other way to put it, just like straight up racism. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like there really was a callback. There was this feeling that has been imbued, right, with Make America Great Again and Trump running, and like we're going to return to normalcy, which is white people, right? Like no longer will we feel like we are the villain and we are the ones that are awful, and we too can be in Cheerios commercials, right? Like there's just this feeling of grievance and victimization that that catapulted Trump, that white people felt, that you and I have talked about how Democrats did not do a very good job of bringing white people along for the ride with Barack Obama. And what's happening right now, though, is I think that really what we're seeing with the polls. really only gets you so far, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it can maybe win you an election, but when people still don't have a job, when people's 401ks are being hollowed out, when teacher jobs are being slashed, when like the government worker in Topeka just got fired for no fucking reason who voted for Donald Trump, hating your black or brown neighbor does not actually result in tangible benefits to you. Just
Yeah.
doesn't. Just
Yeah.
doesn't. You and I
And
know that, but
yeah.
like
But even
this is
if that's giving people the benefit of the doubt, that that's not the only reason why people voted for Donald Trump.
sure, sure.
It also is like, listen, I'm not a particularly risk averse person, for better or for worse. But like a president is not the time to call a flyer. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
I love a semi reckless decision. I really do. But like it's just like the president, like don't pick a dentist, a doctor, or a president or a lawyer like on a whim. And that's what so many Americans were like, I don't know, something needs to change. So like let's just go with the guy who seems disruptive. And like that's not how you run a railroad, you know? And so I just think that so many people are just like, "Oh, wait, I maybe should have thought that through a little bit more," right? And
Yes.
not and like this chaos, right? Like, of course. Oh, right, duh. Like, I think that's as much coming home to roost for the people who were willing to either turn a blind eye or like didn't believe what Donald Trump had to say about people or the people around Donald Trump had to say about brown people or immigrants. And so both I think are really important. One thing though, there was this great article on it was really good reporting done by Axios the other day, and shout out to a friend of the pod, Jessica, for sending it to me, about how the right conservative donors who have built this media ecosystem that had led to this moment in time are
Yeah.
now like doubling and tripling down on their investments and are investing even more, right? And so part of our problem is going to continue to be that even though they're not doing a very good job, even though there are going to be people who are seeing through what's happening, the mechanics of our information distribution systems will mean that people are continuing to be fed only positive takes, only
Yeah.
favorable outcomes, whether or not, even if like Don Sr. gets fed to the wolves, like that'll still keep faith in Don Jr., that will keep faith in MAGA, that will keep faith in these kind of like Republican xenophobic um visions of America, like replacement theory, pro-natalist versions of America. And so they can flounder all they want until we do a better job of like telling a story, getting that story out there, percolating that sort of story throughout culture and making sure that there is something else for people to believe in these moments of questioning and weakness and doubt. We're still not going to win.
It's
Like
a
it
really
won't
great point.
matter.
There are two bright spots, though. One, Joe Rogan turning on Trump for the illegal deportations of US citizens, I thought was a beautiful moment. And, Joe Rogan has gotten a lot of shit. I think a lot of the people in the manosphere has gotten a lot of shit. But, you know, I don't know. I did sort of have a little tinge of hope for our guy Joe Rogan, like old school Fear Factor Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Like, let's don't be a part of the evil empire. You know?
Yeah.
So much content right now. It's like no one wants to be a fucking stormtrooper. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Don't be a fucking bootlicker. Like, these guys have built their whole reputations on being punk, on speaking the truth, on keeping it real. And what you found is people like Joe Rogan, people like Dave Portnoy, folks who, like, they're going to call the shit out when it's not right. And I've been buoyed by that. And then I've also been buoyed by, folks like Pete, who's been great, going, not being afraid,
It's so
fucking
good.
going on these, whether it's Jubilee, debating 100 or whatever it was, 50 MAGA people, or going on Schultz's podcast. Just so good. Just so, so good. But you're right. In these first 100 days, we can talk about Stephen A. Uh, Corey Bush and Jamal started a pod. Gavin started a pod. Crooked Media, of course, is still cooking. But the sort of commensurate investment, right, in this long form parasocial community building is just not happening on the left. And I think that the good news is I think conversations are happening
Yeah, they
thanks to
are.
people like Carrie Twigg, who keeps reminding people that, like, the 100 influencers that make TikToks that you invite to the Democratic National Convention are not going to solve this problem, right? It's going to take
Not
something
alone.
radically different,
Yeah,
not alone, right?
not alone.
Yeah,
I just think people really underestimate how much, especially people who work in our industry, and I try
yeah,
and drive this point home. I'm just like, do you have any idea how much content people are consuming every single day? I think that because we sort of we live our lives on Zoom, because we are just like, we're more apt to read things or whatever. We are incredible. The decision makers behind these media ecosystem investments are really out of step with what content, with what the demand for content actually is. And because I
yeah.
have the production company, and because I'm in LA, because I'm like way more in the entertainment world in my day-to-day life, the amount of TV people are watching, like the amount of YouTube of just like user generated content, like, oh, 6, 8, 10 hours a day of video content. It is,
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you have the time? I don't, but millions, tens of millions of people, the majority of American adults are watching between 4 and 8 hours of video content per day. And you're
Well, think
not
about it
going
though.
to be able to TikTok your way out. It's just like you would just need an army of content creators if we are using short form. You just have to be able to build these not only personalities but content schemes that can go for 4 6 at, like, part of why Joe Rogan does so well is because people spend so much time with him. His episodes are
Yes.
so long.
But you also 100%. And I was trying to think of the comp, but it's like when we grew up, the television was always on,
Yeah.
right? Like, think about that. You turn on the television and you're going to go to the kitchen, you're going to make a meal, you're going to come back, eat some salsa, you maybe iron, maybe clean. Like, there's a lot of things happening while the television is on. And I think that that is the way in which media is consumed today, where, especially with podcasts, right? Like you and I's form, people are in the car. I'll speak just personally. I'm in the car 3 hours a day because I drop my kids off to school every day. I go to work, I pick up my kids, and then I take them to all of their things. I take them to basketball, baseball, dance, chorus. There's all these things. I'm always in my car. A generation ago, people would be listening to the radio. People don't listen to the radio anymore, right?
No.
So, what people are listening to, sadly, if you're a man, is Joe Rogan for 3 hours a day, right? So that has been what's has been sort of like replaced, and the left does not have that replacement. They just don't. Meaning
Well, we
we
just don't
don't
have
have a number of
enough.
options.
We
Yeah.
don't have the number of options, and we don't have enough volume, right? So
Yes.
okay, you just said you're spending 3 hours a day in your car. How much of that are you listening to podcast? I would imagine the majority of it. You listen to a lot of sports stuff when you're not
Yeah.
talking to your kids and like being a present father. right?
When my
I
kids are
listen to
no, that's
hours. Go ahead.
when my kids are in the car, we listen to what they want to listen to. So right now, that means Rage Against the Machine because I introduced Oscar Powell Jenkins to Rage Against the Machine. So that is what we listen to almost exclusively now whenever Oscar's in the car. And then for Sadie, it's Mallrat, it's Lord, it's music. It's all music. When they
Yeah,
get out of the car, podcast. Yeah, and you're right. It's mostly sports podcasts for me.
right.
And
So,
so,
but we're all doing that, right? Like I have my favorite podcasts. I listen to hours of content a day,
yeah,
and then I'm watching things for work, and I'm always looking at references. Like I'm a huge consumer of books, film, TV, podcasts, news. Like I am of the average of like 6 8 hours of content a day, right? It's just not, it just tends to be like academic y. And but I think that while we have a ton of talent on the left, we don't have enough volume of content to
agreed.
fill the demand. And so if you have a demand, you're going to go with whatever supplier is available. And the right, because they have such high volume, they have so many people making so much content that lasts for so long. It's not like Joe Rogan's the only podcaster on the left or on the right that gives multiple hours of content every week, right? Like Ben Shapiro is a juggernaut. This dude is putting out so much content. So many people are putting out so much content that if you're someone who is 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, you're going to leave the left and inevitably be drawn further right and further right and further right, whether it's through sports or through
Yeah,
health and wellness or through pop culture news and commentary, because that's where the volume is. And if
yeah,
you're
agreed.
hungry, you go where the food is. And like we're not feeding the demand cycle. We're not feeding the supply side enough as the left. And part of that is an over not an overinvestment, but a massive investment in short form that is an expungible. We run through it too quickly. And then part of that is like we don't have the underlying infrastructure that says, okay, if you're smart, if you're charismatic, but you don't know how to use a computer or microphone, you don't know how to edit something, you don't know how to put this stuff out, go
Yeah,
talk to this person at this company and start doing it, right?
yeah,
Um,
it's
but
true. We're like, but I feel hopeful. I am hopeful that
me too, me too.
I think that I think people know how serious we need to take it. I also am hopeful. Um, I ran through this is our outline, which we've already sort of organically hit here, Twig. I haven't even looked at this, but what I put
We went through
here,
all this struggle of making an outline, just giggled for the first 10 minutes
and
and
we
then just
just giggled for
abandoned
10
the out.
minutes, and we just kind of went through it. But so the things that I wrote here were the top 10 memorable fuckeries, which is a great word. I love that word. We've talked about the fear mongering attacks on institutions. We've talked about the illegal deportations. We've not really touched on Musk's chainsaw of democracy, quite literally the chainsaw of Doge, which I think is not going particularly well. I don't think that it's
What
been,
a
I don't
what a
think that it's been
douche.
really like, I don't know. I don't think anyone is really cheering on Doge, so to speak. The attacks on DEI and LGBTQ, I don't think is going particularly well. I think it's a really great talking point. But I think for
Yeah.
most Americans, when you are blaming airplanes falling from the sky on a potentially black pilot, which didn't even happen, it's like the other thing that's happening here too is that all of these kind of like edge ideas that existed in the manosphere and in MAGA has now been surfaced. And now that it's been surfaced, people are like, this is bullshit. Do you know what I mean? So DEI as an example, I think that that has been elevated to a point where I think that there are a lot of people that are like, Trump is bullshit on this, right? Like, we should not remove Jackie Robinson from government websites. You know, like, it's just bullshit. Like, all of this is bullshit. right? And so you just go down the list of the things that they think that they were winning on, and they're just not wins. They're losses. They're L after L after L. Because
Yeah.
America, you know what America loves? America fucking loves Jackie Robinson. You know what else America loves? They fucking love watching the NBA playoffs right now. And you know what every player on the court is? Black. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't win. You can't win. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose. And so you go down the list, right? Like the clown car cabinet, the Zelensky Oval Office fight, which was the capitulation of Putin, the Trump and Netanyahu love, which was literally immortalized through this fucking AI video, which was like
Yeah,
Trump
it's
got
crazy.
ripped. The Signal Gate, which is literally the laughing stock of these first 100 days. Like Twig, the fact that we never even talked about it. The fact that that happened is crazy. It's crazy. The
Those
level.
were some of my, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was really bad. Those were some of my favorite memes, though. That did generate some of my favorite memes of the first 100 days. Of just like the Pete Hegseth like official photograph. And it's like, if I send you this, it means we're gonna go get drunk and share secrets.
Oh no. My favorite were the emojis. The comments on the emojis is just the fact
So
that
good.
we are communicating via
I
emoji.
know, I know. There's another good one that was like a mock-up of of like a notifications screen on your phone. And it was like anxiety, like you're not doing enough, depression, no one likes you, Pete Hegseth, we're gonna bomb Yemen. Did you see it?
Oh no.
It was so bad. It was so
Oh man,
bad.
we've not done memes in a while. We got to bring back the
We gotta,
memes.
I'll dig that one up. Someone DM
Got
that
to
one
dig
to
that
me.
one out. We got to
Yeah,
dig
yeah,
that one
yeah.
out.
I
Uh,
mean,
so wait,
yeah.
so the top 10 as I go back into darkness. Those were the top 10. Oh wait, I think I figured it out too. When I get too close to the camera, it shuts off. So I got to stay away. I think that's what's
Oh,
telling me. When I'm
okay.
further away, it's like I know where to focus. Okay. Um, those were the top 10 memorable fuckeries. And then I have top 10 memorable moments for Dems. Um, I think number one, obviously, is the AOC and Bernie rallies.
Mm,
Um, all the citizen direct actions, right? The park rangers, the USAID employees, just people in the streets, like fucking being amazing.
yeah.
Booker, I don't know how will history look back on Booker's filibuster? Do we think?
Certainly better than the sit-in.
Yeah, the sit-in.
That sit-in was such a joke. It's like, you guys,
The sit-in.
what
The
was
sit-in.
that? It's just
Guys,
like, you
come
guys having lunch outside today? Yeah.
on. Also,
Like,
what was
remember that
that?
thing in like elementary school where some it would be really nice, and so your teacher would be like, should we do this lesson
Should
outside?
we
Do you
go
remember that?
outside?
Like, it was like
Yeah.
the best thing ever to get to do your lesson outside or get to do class outside. That's what it reminded me of. I was like, you guys are just like chilling. But it's this classic thing. I mean, homeboy, excuse me, leader Jeffries.
No, he would actually love for you to call him homeboy because my man is trying so hard to be cool.
Bro,
So
bro.
hard.
But it's just like he just chooses the most passive option
Yeah.
every time. And I'm just like, not the right choice for the moment. Like, you're not
Yeah.
understanding the assignment. Like so many people last night at the Met Gala, I'm sure you did not pay any attention. But
I saw the
uh
photo. I saw the photos this morning. I mean, I love the theme and I mean, the people that got the assignment was fucking
did
great.
great, did great.
It's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. But yeah. Who were your favorite?
Um
Not to switch subjects. Who were your favorite Met Gala folks?
I actually was I, I think everyone read the first half of the theme, but not the second half.
And then they just forgot the second. Yeah.
So it was very much like black tailoring, right? Or like tailored to fit and honoring like the kind of legacy, the fashion legacy of black tailoring and dandyism, right? And it's like everyone got the tailoring, everyone sort of forgot the dandy of it. And
Mhm.
so there were just nothing but pinstriped tux like reinterpretations of the tuxedo. So I found it incredibly repetitive, incredibly boring. People looked good, but it was just sort of like the things that I associate with dandyism are like whimsy. Like to me,
Yes.
Andre 3000 with the piano on his back, brilliant.
Yes.
Artist Ming Smith, brilliant. I thought Doechii looked amazing. It was my favorite of all the Pharrell Louis Vuitton looks. Incredible. But otherwise, it was just people in pinstripes, and I was just like, "Is this like Harlem Nights pimp 1940s zoot suit thing?" Like over and over and over and over and over again, and very little color, very little sort of ingenuity, very little um, of what I would expect from a dandy tradition.
It wasn't fun enough for me.
Exactly. No
Yeah.
whimsy. There was so
Yeah.
little whimsy.
Whimsy is the perfect word. It just wasn't fun, you
Yeah.
know? And yeah.
Like half
Uh,
these people just looked like they were like, it was just like great outfit for your Today Show appearance. Killer. Like
my
love it.
favorite was my favorite was Pusha just because he had snow on his suit. Did you see this? It's
Yeah.
just
Like that was cool. Cool.
chef's kiss,
Interesting.
you know? So just like
Um,
such a Pusha T move. Um, the other things I have for top memorable moments, probably not a surprise that there's some negatives here. Schumer caving. I think that when we remember these first 100 days, that will be the sort of signature moment that
yeah.
we'll see how that will translate into these midterms, particularly among young people. But the Schumer cave is just still unexplained, just kind of
The
brushed past. It is what it is.
totally. The Schumer cave in relief to AOC absolutely dominating the moment, right?
Yes.
Just
Yes.
like in your in your state, in your caucus, like
Yes.
there is someone who's giving you a master class in how to understand and interpret and respond to this moment, and you are exposing how woefully inadequate you are.
It's so true. So where do we go from here? So these first 100 days.
Wait, did you mention the other ones? I think these is really important. It's like the town
Oh
halls.
yeah.
So shout out to Andy Kim, Gov Walls, all the people who are like standing up in these Republican town halls who the
Yes.
Republicans who do have the courage to actually meet with their constituents and are just like absolutely not and getting carried out just like just getting escorted out of town halls across the country, just like middle fingers up, just like bye. You're not gonna gaslight me and pretend like any of this makes any sense or is in the best interest of your constituents. So
Great
shout out to all
call.
those people.
Great call. Yeah, Andy, Governor Walls. Who else? I feel like
Chris
Murphy's
Murphy, I mean, obviously
Murphy.
AOC and Bernie,
Yep.
Chris Murphy, Max Frost,
They've been
I'm
out there, man.
sure a bunch of
They've
other
been out
people.
there. They've been out there. They've been doing some really great work. I mean, but on the flip though, you have Democrats going out there and getting booed, right? Not to keep bringing up our guy Hakeem, but like the number of videos this guy this guy, man, how is he our leader? I just don't get
He
it.
just he would just be so great at a different time. He's just not understanding. And it's like I have sympathy for him. He's new, I get
Yeah,
it. And not everyone's meant for every single time. Not everyone's meant to be in the front every
true.
at all times, you know, and it doesn't he had a short runway. I understand that, but other people have figured it out. Like this isn't a
True.
rehearsal. And so the fact that he hasn't seemed to figure out what his how to get his arms around this moment is just like, maybe it's because it's not supposed to be you, babe. Like at some
You,
point, we
I
need
think
to consider that.
you put it really well, which was like Hakeem would have been a great leader if Kamala Harris was president,
Oh,
right? He
the
was like
tank. Yeah.
perfectly positioned for that kind of leadership, not perfectly positioned for this moment at all.
No.
Um,
And
Chuck
that
Schumer,
doesn't mean he's not like good or
yeah,
like it
yeah,
doesn't, it's just not everyone for all things, you know?
true, true. One thing that's not
Um,
outlined that I think we do need to touch back on, and I know we got to wrap up, is the DNC chair because we spent a lot of time. We spent a lot of time, Twig, invested in the future of the Democratic Party. And I think that by the end of that race, by the end of talking to all of the candidates, except for the one that won, ironically, I think you and I came to the conclusion that this change is not going to come from the Democratic Party, right? It's just not. It's going to come from other places, other people. It's not going to come from whoever's quote unquote leadership from the DNC. But if you were to grade, let's maybe do final grades, like final grade for the Democratic Party in these first 100 days, Twig,
I
you
mean,
know?
I haven't heard it. I mean, they made a big hire. It seems like their social presence is getting a little bit snappier, a little quicker, a little
Yeah,
bit more intentional. And so I
yeah.
recognize that and like give that a lot of props and a lot of credits. It is the bare minimum of what should be happening in this moment. I am not seeing them. Now, granted, maybe that doesn't mean they're not doing anything. Maybe it's just not getting served to me as a hyper consumer of left-leaning content. You'd think it would. Um, uh, but that said, Mike, they again, new chair, they're figuring out what their approach and strategy is going to be. That said,
Yeah.
if they don't very quickly figure out how to catch some of these Trump voters that are DMing you and saying, "We're really embarrassed and we're
Yes.
really sorry." If there is not a strategy to come and go get those people and bring them back into the fold, if there is not a strategy to very quickly and very robustly and very clearly and cleverly rebuild the brand of the Democratic Party, which I have yet to see, then like we're missing the opportunity that Trump constantly gives out through his sort of inability to sustain competence for more than a day at a time. And that's a failing grade. Like that is the number
Agreed.
one job of the Democratic Party right now is to like run around, pick fights, try and instigate the Republicans into embarrassing themselves, explaining why what they're doing is bad for the American people, and then bringing the people who are willing to listen back into a Democratic fold or at least back towards local candidates. And I'm not sure that I've seen that has gotten set up.
You're totally right. That's the thing that keeps me up at night, right? Is that while Trump's numbers are catastrophically low, the Democratic Party's numbers have not budged. They're still
I
catastrophic.
mean,
So,
and like who's even thinking about Democrats really, right? It's like
true.
it's even still as a party or like as a movement, there's just a real absence. And so
Yeah.
then that puts us back into the position of becoming overly reliant on individuals and building around individuals when we all know we're marching towards a 2028 primary season where 900 people are going to run for president.
Everyone's gonna run.
And
Let's
everyone's
go.
gonna run. Everyone's gonna run. And so they should. I don't think that's a problem. But if we don't have a general infrastructure that makes it really easy for people to move, like if your number one choice doesn't get picked, you still
Yeah.
feel good, safe, and somewhat aligned with a party infrastructure that will elevate a candidate that might not be your number one, but that you'll be okay with.
Yeah.
Like, if that doesn't happen, and I don't know without that sort of baseline infrastructure building that will happen, we're going to be in a scenario very similar to what we saw in 2008, which is if your number one candidate doesn't get picked, people are like, middle finger up, I'm out. Right.
True.
And Barack Obama, because he brought so many new people in, was able to work his way around that. But we have a history on the left of the Democratic Party building around individual candidates, whether it's Bernie, whether it's Hillary, whether it's Obama, and having voters that are so strongly single-minded about who they're willing to vote for because they don't have an alliance or an allegiance to the party values overall because they don't even know what they are, if they
Yeah.
even know what they are, that they then fall off, don't pay attention, don't kind of stay engaged. And like we can't afford that. We literally cannot afford that. And so um hopefully that gets worked out.
All right, here's what we're gonna do in true sports podcast fashion. We are at the close of the first pod we've done in a minute. We've
It's been a
just
long
passed the
time.
first 100-day mark for Donald Trump. We're counting down the days to the midterms, but let's just be real. The primaries for the Democratic presidential primary is right around the corner. Like it's already happening. So Carrie Twigg, who is your top three? Top three.
Who do
And
I like? Who do
you
I
can
like, or who
tag
do I
it
think is going to win?
way, but I want you to give, actually, if you want to do two separate top threes, two first top three, who you want to win. Second top three, who you think has the best chance of winning. Because
I
sometimes those two
mean,
things are different.
they're always different in
They're
my
very
case.
different. What do you got?
Who would I like? I mean, number one, AOC.
Same. That's my number one.
Um, Number two, Wes Moore. Num-
Oh,
I love
okay.
Wes. And number Governor of Maryland. Sorry, Governor Moore. We're not that friendly. Number three would number three is a toss up. Like, I could be really happy with a Pete. I could be very happy with a Chris Murphy. I could be very happy with like an outs like Sean Fain. Like I mean,
I like that.
dark horse. Like that's a flex spot for sure. Who do I think has the best chances? Now I know you're going to disagree with this.
No, go for it.
I think Gavin Newsom has a really good chance. I think Gavin Newsom's probably at the top, like in the very front of the pack. At least at this stage, so much can happen. But
Yeah.
um, Chris Murphy, I actually think is really viable if he continues to get his shit together and like continue to build name ID and stay out there. I also think I think it's going to be a governor, probably more likely. I think everyone from Congress is going to be so washed. But so maybe a Gretchen Whitmer, maybe who are some
That
of the other
coach.
popular.
With coach.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. I think Coach, I really like Coach. I think Coach should absolutely run for president. I think Coach is going to play more of a foil, like a policy foil, than the odds of him sort of rising to the front.
Yeah.
Um,
I see that.
you know what I mean? I think it's sort of
Yeah.
like I think if Sherrod Brown runs for governor, I mean he's not going to run for president. Odds are, but like that kind of figure, like a really state centric, which we actually did talk to Coach about, like a really
Yeah.
state focused, someone who can be like this policy in this way for this reason and do so with a little bit of pizzazz.
That's why I think Gavin can't win. Because I think that most of the country is unconvinced that California has it figured out, you know? As charming and as handsome and as shitty as his podcast is, I don't think that Gavin is gonna can sort of figure that piece out, at least in a general election. Now, what we're talking about is the primary. So, he will have unlimited sums of money, right? He will have huge name ID. He will, to your point, he will be like 3 steps ahead of everyone else. I just don't think he can win a general election.
I
Uh,
think he is so good. I think he is so good. I think the thing that separates him, fairly or unfairly,
yeah,
we are alive in a politic of showmanship. That
Sure.
is that is the taste of the moment, that is the ethos of our politics
Yeah.
at the moment. Barack Obama had it, so does Donald Trump. These guys are imminently watchable, and we have rewarded over and over and over again elected officials who are good to watch.
Yeah.
And Gavin Newsom is incredibly good to watch. He's incredibly good with liberals, he's incredibly good with conservatives. He is not defensive, he is articulate about the ways that California has failed to meet its promise. He's articulate about the ways that it is by far the gold standard of kind of policy in the world. So I think that his talent, his like his
Yeah.
raw talent for leadership and for public work is going to he's just the strongest in that, and I think that when it really comes down to it is what's happening. Like, people are voting
Interesting.
for the person that they think talks the best.
So I love that you're zigging and I'm gonna zag. Because here's my zag.
Yeah, who you
Here's my
got?
zag. You and I always agree on everything. Here's my zag to Gavin Newsom. US Senator Andy Kim. Think about this. Yes, he was just elected. Yes, he's very young. But it's the same timeline when Senator Barack Obama ran for president. Andy is, I can't think of someone who is more of just salt of the earth, family man, super smart, the opposite, right? Like when we think of opposites, right? Like Donald Trump to Barack Obama, that is a very clear opposite, right? People talk about this with Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. Just like America likes to just have like a different flavor. You know what I mean? It's like we're dating someone for a while. We want to go in another direction. And I think Andy Kim is the almost exact opposite of a Donald Trump, you know, in every shape and form. And maybe America just wants kind of an earnest, humble, smart guy, just kind of take the reins, you know? And maybe Democrats
Interesting.
don't need someone flashy. Maybe Democrats just need someone who's fucking competent, who's a good dad, who's gonna like just be a very like hand on the wheel. Everyone, buckle your safety belts. We're going to get to the destination. We don't need something flashy. We don't need a showman. We need someone who's authentic. We need someone who's real. If we're going to do the top three, my number one who I'd want, I think AOC. I think a lot of people underestimate her. I think a lot of people are giving these rallies a lot more import to Bernie Sanders than they are to AOC. I see a lot of reporting around these rallies, and they keep saying these Bernie Sanders rallies. Let's be clear, Bernie has never had rallies this size. Even when he was running for president, it had hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank. Granted, we're in a very different moment, but I think AOC is a generational political figure. I think Andy Kim can be something very unique, very different. And then for number three, I like want a wild card. Like I want someone, I want Jon Stewart to run for president, right? Like, why the fuck not? You know?
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
Zelensky,
I
wasn't Zelensky like an actor? Like,
Yeah.
was
No, he was
Ronald
like the
Reagan an actor?
Johns. Yeah, he's like the Johns. No, we love a television star for president. It's working great, so why not keep going?
Exactly. We've got a great
Um,
track record of TV stars as presidents. You know what I mean?
yeah, what could go wrong?
Nothing can go
Um,
wrong. Nothing can go wrong.
I think that I love your optimism on the highbrow nature and desires of the American voting population. I think that's really cute. I think that's great.
Trust the American people, you know?
Yeah. I
That's
think
gone
Andy
really well as
Kim.
well. Trusting the American people has gone really well for
I think,
democracy.
yep, nailed it. We're nailing it. Um, I think that Andy Kim would be like a super great VP pick. Not to disparage Andy, but I don't see how. I get his appeal to you, but I don't see a viable path. Two other names I would throw out are JB Pritzker, governor of Illinois. I think he'll probably run. Um, this is in my viability category, and then Mark Cuban.
And Cuban. So that's your billionaire category.
Billionaire businessman.
The billionaire
Because I
category.
don't because I don't know that we I don't know that I'd have to think about it, but I don't know that we are really in a state where we like the opposite. I think that we like inverses of one another, right? Like Barack
Mm,
Obama and Donald Trump are like a weird funhouse mirror image of one another. They're not opposites. It's like Donald
interesting.
Trump is like
Yeah,
he's like this metastasized. He's just like, it's Dark Brandon, right? It's just like the other side of the mirror in this weird way. And and so I think that there's going to be the next president will have a lot of similarities to Donald Trump with some of hopefully none of the downsides.
interesting. I like that. I like that a lot. I love the idea of a zag. Like I love the idea of, it's almost like speaking of the Met Gala, like fashion, right? Like Anna Wintour being able to see things 5 to 10 years out. And sometimes things just kind of surface and you don't really know where it's coming from, you know?
Yeah,
And that's sort of what I'm hoping for. Maybe it's not Andy. Clearly, Andy's a friend, so I'm like out here, I'm rooting for him. But I think that sometimes something just happens, and people are
totally.
just like, you know what? That's what I want. I want that.
And
It's
things
hitting
are
the sweet
changing
spot.
so rapidly, and where
Yeah,
things are so volatile that who knows? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
sure.
It's like it could totally happen. There could be a radical um shift in kind of consumer desire. I just think that the cultural support and the cultural trends that we're seeing d- just created a sense of normalcy around so much of the Trump like entertainment value and showmanship
I hear
that
you.
it's going to be tough to sort of unthread or whatever, back ourselves out of that, It's
It's
like,
almost like a drug, you know? It's like, you know what they say, like cocaine, people who are like really deeply addicted to something, it's like the withdrawal is just it's so painful and it's a shock to the system. And we have now become addicted to this, whether or not we realize it or not, right? Like the dopamine effect of social media and constant attention, like politics for attention, is something that's like deeply embedded now. Like it's like anything
yeah,
else. You just get
it's
used
so
to it.
normal. Yeah,
It's
we're
just
down
become so
regulated.
normalized. And you bring up a very good point, which is like the question becomes, do we put in, right, if we're the GM, right, of the Democratic Party, do we put in a player that can play in that on that playing field? Or do we try to just like Americans that we don't have to play on this playing field? It doesn't have to be this way, And maybe it's
Right.
not
I just
either
don't even
or.
and I just don't know how you go about convincing them of that, right? In the time
Yeah,
horizon that we have,
yeah.
it will actually take to me in my mind, it would take electing that guy on the terms that exist who then weans us off,
Brings us
right?
back.
Who like is flashy and showy, gets
Yeah.
elected, and then is like, I'm gonna get you used to it being boring, right? I'm gonna make you safe. It's gonna be
Yeah.
safe. It's gonna be all right. All right, we're gonna go from toxic to healthy. We started toxic, we're gonna heal our relationship. We're gonna heal it. We're gonna put section 230 and we're gonna reform some of this stuff. I'm gonna wean you off these hijinks, right? But otherwise, who's
Yeah,
going to do it? Because the reward structure is set up to reward the person who captures attention the best.
true. So what
And
you're telling me is
and sorry, to the point about, just to reemphasize Gavin started a podcast because he gets that campaigning is 365,
true.
right? One of the most telling moments of our interview with Governor Walz was when I explained to him that Joe Rogan episodes are they're, I think you told him, we were explaining how long Joe Rogan episodes are. You told him President Trump was on Joe Rogan for 2.5 hours. Governor Walz said, doesn't he have any work to do? And you said, that is the work,
That
right?
is
That
the
is
word.
the fact that they don't, so many elected officials, so many
Yeah,
campaign strategists, so many people on the left don't understand that the political work of this moment is setting up multiple streams of communication that are consistent, that feel raw, authentic, honest, that are long form, that are not asking for anything, that are off of the traditional transactional timeline of an election. And the only person who's theoretically running for president, the only people who are theoretically running for president who've demonstrated any awareness of that in a consistent way have been Senators Murphy, AOC, Gavin Newsom, and Pete Buttigieg,
Pete
right? So, like,
and Pete.
those, the big four, are the only people who are figuring this out and doing that work now. And I think that it will reap huge rewards for them.
Flip it. We're gonna put in some video content. Tag everyone. Twig is putting her, her halo effect on the top four. Twig, this was great. I gotta go pick up my children.
The
But this was
crumbs.
so fun, man. This was so fun. We're gonna get this up. The beauty about these is we can get these up ASAP and make fun little clips, and we're gonna do the whole thing. But I'm gonna see you soon. I got your calendar, which is very game changing for me. So
I have to
now,
update it. I'm going to come to town in a
now,
couple weeks.
oh, great. We got to figure it out. Because speaking of Jasmine Crockett, her team wants to figure it out. So we got to figure out how to get your girl Jasmine on. Let's do it. We got to figure that out the next time
I
you're in
love
town.
Jasmine Crockett. Love her.
Let's go.
All
Let's
right.
go. Oh, all right, Twig. We did it.
We did it. It was
We did
amazing.
it. All
So
right,
my
peace.
cheeks hurt from laughing so hard.
I'm curious, like, do we keep just us laughing
Yeah.
pretending? Yeah.
Yes.
We just
Everyone's going through it. The least we can do
True.
is
It's true.
laugh.
I love it. All right, guys. Peace, y'all.